What could a satirist from the 1800s have in common with a 1970s civil rights activist?
Well, quite a lot actually. William Hone and Angela Davis both fought against the state for the rights of the people, and both were wrongly thrown in jail.
In jail, they realised that their only freedom was their right to write. It all started with a letter.
Nothing short of a revolution will set us free.
Brilliant, bold, and black, Angela Davis was born on Dynamite Hill, so called because of the Ku Klux Klan's frequent bombings of the area. She quickly identified with black socialist groups like the Chillimamba Club, and by age 26, she found herself on the FBI's most wanted list.
But why?
The police alleged her involvement in the Soledad Brothers courthouse shootings, which involved guns that were registered in Davis's name. She was captured by police and the National Guard, then jailed without trial for 17 months.
150 years before Davis, satirist William Hone faced a similar fate. I wrote my last register at home, in the midst of my family. Since then, the reign of terror has commenced, and I now write from a prison. In 1817, Hone was an established reporter on police brutality, sham trials, and royal corruption. His radical views meant he had to self-publish, creating the Reformist Register. One day he joked, "Thou shalt not say that to rob the public is to steal. Thou shalt not call royal gallivanting adultery," a satiric jab at then Prince George using the Ten Commandments. 4 months later, he was abducted on the street and taken to King's Bench Prison, where he would remain for 2 months without trial, on charges of blasphemy and seditious libel.
Just like Davis, his detainment was a reminder of the king's power.
Even when containing our resistance within the orbit of legality, we have been labeled criminals.
Detained on technicalities, both Davis and Hone realised that the government's goal was to silence them.
Davis took to writing letters calling out to racial and political injustice in the US. In her open letter to black high school students, she asked them to get it together, calling for the power of the youth to free political prisoners to achieve black liberation and equal rights. Davis's voice echoed through prison halls and walls, with prisoners beginning to chant,
"Free Angela Davis! Free all political prisoners!"
Hone, meanwhile, published letters from his cell, where he recounted the events of his imprisonment, from the moment of his abduction to the daily denials of his rights in jail. Whatever my fate may be, I am resolved to use every effort in my present situation which may be of use to my country. So the state tightened the vice. Conditions were rough. Hone became too sick to write due to the cold and the sleepless nights. With his bail posted at around £55,000 in today's terms, there was no end in sight.
Davis was moved to Santa Clara jail, forced to wear ill-fitting clothes and left barefoot. There was no heating and the toilet had overflowed. The water was ankle deep on the cell floor. Her bail mounted to $102,000, roughly $800,000 today.
Though the ordeal was constant, their fortunes were beginning to change.
Angela Davis's letters, though written from incarceration, encouraged public action and exchange. She received around 400 letters a day in response from over 67 countries, including from fellow writer and activist James Baldwin, and from behind another wall from East Germany, where the youth-led campaign 1 Million Roses encouraged writing postcards to Davis in her support.
Mrs. Worldwide.
Indeed. She was isolated, but she wasn't alone. Her international community and groups like the Communist Party, the National Council of Black Lawyers, and the Presbyterian Church were key to her freedom. On February 23, 1972, just 5 days before her trial, Davis's bail was paid, allowing her to walk freely after spending 17 months behind bars. She was acquitted of all charges.
Hone, however, initially struggled in isolation. I very earnestly solicit the endeavours of my friends to extend the circulation of the register wherever they can. My present confinement renders this appeal necessary. With his wife and a few close friends passing around his newspaper, he started to gain support through word of mouth. But even then, his supporters were often too poor to donate to his cause, so he was left to represent himself in court against the Chief Justice himself.
How did that go?
This actually worked out quite well for Hone. He turned the courthouse into a comedy club, reading pages of satire as his defence and making the jury laugh so much the Chief Justice had to order them to be silent. The newspaper reports of the trials turned him into a folk hero, and day by day, ever larger crowds would gather outside the courthouse for the verdict. You could say Hone was going viral. When he was found not guilty on the final day of his trial, the people partied in the streets outside the courthouse, an open act of defiance against the king.
Their letters were penned in hope and sealed in victory.
So what can we learn from these stories of resistance?
Both Angela Davis and William Hone's stories show that one person's call can be answered by a community in their thousands.
Thankfully, you don't need to be thrown in a cell awaiting trial for blasphemy or murder to find your voice. You can start right now. So what are you passionate about? What do you know that you wish the world knew too? With modern technology, we have a bigger platform than ever to connect with people all over the world.
But at the same time, in our era of information overload, perhaps the calls outnumbered responses. Perhaps awareness doesn't equal action. The community around Angela Davis and William Hone was just as important as their cause.
So are you going to be the person who posts the call?
Or takes up the call when you see it.
These were their letters.
What's yours?